Hello, students. I'd like to just quickly talk about a couple things with our Chapter 11 project. Your teacher will have gone through the full details of this project in class, and this video is not about the details. It is to show you how to use some of the functions that Google Slides has to offer. So I'm going to kind of jump to our student example here. This is a partial example of the project that you could create. This would be my title page. I have the title of my project, and then I've got a small description with a little bit of a eye-catching piece. What I want to show you here is what if you want to change the background of your slides just to add a little bit more style to your project. So what I did was I right-clicked, and I'm going to change background, and then you have an option for color. You can pick whatever you'd like when you're done, or you could put an image in the background that you can play around with that. You'd have to download something onto your hard drive or your desktop and then upload that image. But now I just changed that. Okay, now here is my game board. And again, I'm not going to go into the details of the project itself, but how did I get the shapes and what are some ways that I can actually use some of these items? So first part, how do I get the shape? We have an option right here. You can check your shapes or you can look at any other shapes. Now keep in mind, if you use one of these, you would have to calculate the area for that. So I would stick to the basic shapes. So let's say I've got a rectangle, a triangle, and then a composite shape. So let's say I want to put a trapezoid in here somewhere. So let's say I grab this trapezoid. Now here's a small hint. When you're doing your trapezoid, if you can use the measurements up here, that might really help. So I'm going to try to make this a 1-inch width up top. I'll just make it a little bigger. And maybe I can't get that 1 inch perfectly, but we can try it. Now this looks to be an isosceles trapezoid. So maybe I'll do a little bigger. I'm going to try to get about a 2-inch. But anyways, so what did I do? I made my shape. Now if I want to change the color, I'll go to Fill Color, and I can make that any shape I want. Click on it. I can call this door number 4. All right, and then if I want to center it, we can center it. But one of the important things here is we know that the area of this shape is 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So how do I find base 1 and base 2? Well, what we're going to do is you're going to right click on that shape and go down to Format Options. When you do that, you get size and rotation to pop up, or it might be hidden like this. So click on size and rotation, and then notice it says width and height. So you can control that. The width here is the bottom width. So what if I want that to be a friendlier number? Let's say I want that to be 3. Okay, so that's 3 inches. And by the way, notice the scale up top. This is 1 inch, 2 inch, and it goes all the way to 10 inches. So your width is 10 inches, and the height of this triangle is 5.5 inches. I'm not triangle, rectangle, excuse me. 5.5 inches for the entire game board. So that's something to keep in mind. So here my width is 3, and the height, let's say I want it to be 1.5. All right. Well, now the only thing I need then is I need the width of the top base. So I can call this base 1, base 2. How do I find this width? Here's the only way that I've found is if you can take this and maybe bring it as close as possible to the starting number. All right, so see, this would be 3. I would estimate this is maybe 2.25 inches. So I would use base 2 as 2.25 inches. Base 1 would be 3, so I could add those up, times by the height and cut it in half, and that's how I would find the area of a trapezoid. So that one's just a little bit tricky. So you're going to have to estimate one of the bases with this. Now, you could also do some rotating. If I use the rotation, I can rotate it a complete 90 degrees, or I can flip it horizontally, flip it vertically, or if I want, I can press the angle rotation. I can rotate it a certain amount of degrees, whatever works best for you. Then you can play around with other items here. This is positioning if you want, but I just would rather kind of drag it into the right spot. And some of you may know a lot more about this than I am, and explore, play around if you can. So that's how you kind of do this to find the measurements. Now, if I click on the next door or the next image, notice my size and rotation changed. So now I have a width of 3 inches and a height of 2 inches. And since this is a right triangle, base times height cut in half is the area. All right, and then the other thing I want to show you is look at this shape down here. It's actually a composite of 2 different shapes. So if you want to get creative and maybe challenge yourself a little bit, you can create 2 different shapes. What I did was I created a square, and you can see the square is 1 inch by 1 inch. So it's definitely a square. And then I created a circle that has a diameter of 1 inch, which is the width. And then I just moved one on top of the other, so it created a composite solid. So then finding the area, I would take the area of the square and I would add it to the area of the semicircle. And then once I have the areas, I'm going to go here, and I just want to show you this with one shape. So let's say I've got shape number 1, I called it a rectangle. I identified the height and the width, and then look at the area. We had to provide correct units. So this is 3 inches squared, but not sure how to easily do the exponent in squared, so I just wrote it as squared inches instead of inches with the squared value on top. All right, so that's just a couple of different things on how formatting can help make this project a little easier. Please see your teacher if you have any other questions.